Welcome everyone.
A very
Heartbreaking episode.
amazingly in the spirit of change, as we love change. We've been doing this podcast for over a year, I guess.
Definitely more than a year, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is the 76th or 78th.
Oh, I don't know. You count them because
They have numbers.
Wow.
But we have been having a conversation lately about changing what we are doing with the podcast, which resulted in that we have to stop doing this podcast.
Yeah.
That's this episode. We're not going to make it too long. We're going to be sharing a bit about what we learned spending a weekly hour together talking openly and honestly about change.
Yeah.
And what we learned from this experience. If you care about change, if you love change, then you know change isn't always easy. And like I told you this afternoon, the business decisions that I'm making, change can be abrupt. Change can be
pretty messy.
Messy. It can be uncomfortable.
Disturbing.
And this is again one of those moments. If you stop doing something that you've been doing, it's a big part of change, is stopping doing certain things. That part can feel weird, so to say, uncomfortable because you don't know what's next. But I'm happy we took the decision.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think now also looking back at it is like, I think in the beginning we have put in more work, effort in it. And at some point it became a thing to do. And I don't think we've been putting a lot of love in it. And that's something that, kind of was also not growing. Because if you don't put attention into certain things, then they also don't really feel fully loved. And they also come across fully loved, I guess. I think the conversations have been great, no question about that. But I think we just we at some point lost where this podcast was going to, in that sense. And I think it's
Speak
good
for
to...
yourself.
No, I'm not speaking for myself. I think it's fair to say. I think it's really, at some point you just also need to, rethink.
I think to
what
make
you've been
a
doing.
podcast successful
It's a lot of work.
is plenty of work. It also requires
Also work around.
plenty of work that you don't see
Yeah.
people talking or listen to them chatting, but prep wise, inviting guests, organizing stuff, making snippies, making promos in advance, afterwards, sharing it on social media, and that's definitely something that we were doing very steadily at the beginning.
Yeah.
And as our businesses took off,
Yeah.
found less and less time to do it, and also less and less urgency to do it.
Yeah.
I think one thought that I had was like, what is interesting about the podcast with the same two people every time? If I check the podcasts that I listen to, there's one person who is the host of the podcast, and he or she has different hosts, guests every time. That was a part that I felt like our podcast can do better.
Yeah, but I think
On top
that's
of all the-
view that you have, because you spend your life with me, so it's also you see the same person. I think for people, for me, it was also like whenever we would show up with a topic, we didn't necessarily you would surprise me many times, and I hope so did I, about your view on things, So I find that this is also something that we started doing because we were learning a lot about
value
each
of the
other,
podcast for
but
us.
also sharing for people to be to people, and that's a thing to say. We never prepared any answers, and I think this is something really powerful to just in the moment really say what comes up, because that's really the big level of honesty.
I think it's a very good thing for a new couple to do, is to spend an hour every week talking about certain things completely honestly, whether you need to record it and send it into the internet or not, but to
recording it's an extra layer.
but to sit down and talk openly and be willing to disagree and just to talk about topics that maybe are not at hand. Sometimes they're very current topics. I think the value of the podcast for me personally was mostly getting to know you more. And I do remember plenty of episodes where people reached out to me, or based on an episode, people in my close circle who listened to it took some action. So we did create change and we did impact people's lives. We've got plenty of positive reactions.
Yeah, also really inspirational for people to be like, wow, that was really a good point, made me think.
Yeah, or just the simple fact that we just make a podcast in our living room.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So the messiness, the imperfectness, the not ready, not good enough, the not pretty enough, the not in a good mood, the not just had a fight, have to go on air 10 minutes
That
later.
part I really love the most. I think this is something that just is life,
Yeah.
but still it is life. But if you have a fight and you don't feel like being around each other's ass, and then you do a podcast and you still like put all your energy to talk about the topic and really give it all,
Yeah.
I find that is really impressive. And we had weeks where you guys probably also had many people reaching out to me saying, are you guys okay? Because we had a couple of rough weeks.
Sure.
So I think it's also fair to reflect that and also not be not put up a face and pretend that everything is fine, but just also really be ourselves and talk openly. So I think all the awkwardness that was around there is also pretty amazing, because this is what we stand for, doing the podcast. And I think this for me was very powerful. So I appreciate that.
We have made about 80 episodes. We have had about 20 fights around the episodes.
I think that's
I definitely have a double-digit score on how many episodes I made you feel uncomfortable.
Oh, that part definitely, but that's not a fight for me.
No.
That's awkward endings, awkward moments, for sure. That is definitely a 20 plus. But really having fights around it, no.
No.
That was maybe 6.
Who's counting?
5.
Anyways. Who's counting anyways? But yeah, just to say that the podcast was a growing experience. Also for you, I think you also have to look back at the first episodes that you did.
Yeah,
and how relaxed you are doing it nowadays. It was a great school of learning and getting comfortable with something.
Yeah, but also what I'm doing on my channel is kind of like doing IGTV lives, which is similar to what we are doing here. Yeah, be really at ease with it. I think that's also powerful.
Yeah, you were far from at ease. I remember all the preparations.
And how many times I just show up talking about my product superfoods, all the knowledge without prepping a minute for it, or just like framing the topic that we want to talk about, a bit of a line. And I think that's really amazing, because that's something that I did not allow to show up like that, and I definitely didn't feel comfortable. So Brian is saying, why are you guys stopping?
No, we're stopping because you didn't show enough respect to the podcast by subscribing to the YouTube channel. And it's your fault.
Yeah.
No, cousin. We're stopping because we have only so much time in a week.
Yeah.
And I think it's a focus thing. I definitely hope to be back with a podcast. I think Kay also wants to do a podcast. One thing that definitely will change is the location. It will not be in our homes anymore. I've built a beautiful office where I do coaching and writing. And I hope to turn that into a recording studio as well for e-learning and podcasting. But I hope to do more podcasts with guests, which requires me to be able to organize, invite, record, do a bit of post-production, and step up my game a bit in the promotion area.
Yeah.
And that's something that I cannot do while doing this at the same time. I also don't know when I will be able to do it. I'm doing a lot of amazing things right now.
Time will show, I guess.
Yeah, no rush. It will come, but it requires more people. It was plenty of work for us in front of the lens, behind the lens, and I think in the future I will definitely figure out how to get more people involved.
Yeah. What is your biggest learning? What is your biggest outtake from doing that podcast?
Yeah, I think just the production house around the podcast. I remember us making the snippies. How much work was that? Getting the Instagram TV frame and the subtitles, and how much work I spent. I think my biggest learning is that I have all these technical skills.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I have to be the producer of the thing. You
Yeah,
know?
well, that's a technicality. But you personally, if you say
No, for me
I got much
personally-
easier around the camera, then what is your personal?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely easier doing a podcast with another person, because I remember I think I did like 5 or 6
right.
episodes by myself,
Yeah.
and how difficult that was, and how much easier it is to have a conversation with another person.
Yeah, we still have the drawing from the first one.
Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna frame that guy,
Yeah.
and I will keep talking about change. I think I have developed a lot of methodologies, but I will use a different format, I guess. And I think for me, it's really interesting to see what I can do with this format as an educator,
Yeah.
as a trainer, as a coach, just to make podcasts for the sense of making podcasts. It's not it anymore. I feel like the first couple of episodes that I did, I was definitely addressing more issues and providing more tips and tricks and guidance. Not smiling as enough as I would afterwards, but I think I had definitely a certain structure. I think I also learned that doing something like this with your partner or another creative person, I remember how many conversations we had about taking the lead or stuff like that. Yeah, I learned from that to be like, okay, what kind of people do I want to work with in the future?
Yeah, I think what we also learned is to maybe separate what you do as work with your partner or not, to really maybe keep it exclusively to have your relationship and your life that you build together with your partner, not necessarily mingle in businesses. I think also we are so different as in personalities and views on things that I find sometimes it's really difficult to find common ground in that sense. And I think it's also fair to say that I remember when you said very early, you've been like, if I have a fight with you around a job topic, I don't want to be around your ass and pretend everything is fine when we have dinner. And I think that's a fair point. Like, maybe
Yes,
people
finally.
do it.
Finally, because you disagreed.
I
at the
didn't
beginning.
disagree. That's also a bit.
But you didn't agree like you do today.
You can
Take the victory.
make it whatever
Yeah.
you want to make it. I think it's just fair enough to say. I think our point of view and perspective is so different on things that I also don't feel like many things.
I think
I ask you for advice or I ask you for an idea, but sometimes I also don't, because I don't feel like it would help me in that sense. You know,
No,
and
I
think
think
that's
it's
just
good
fair
to know
say.
for what you go to who,
Yeah.
and to come from a place that we went to each other for almost everything,
Mm-hmm.
and now we go to each other for food. It's amazing.
Well,
Nah, but I think you deserve
it's
your
also a
own
bit more than
leadership.
food.
I didn't want to make it vulgar, so I kept it to
Building
food.
a life
No,
is not necessarily
sex.
vulgar. I think building a life is one
Yeah,
of the things.
but what I wanted to say is I think definitely each and every one of us have our different leadership styles
Yeah.
and energies, and those also contrasted quite often.
Just nothing bad. It's just I find it an amazing observation to see that you can vibe with someone that you love on that level of being in a relationship and like understanding each other, building a life. I mean, you really put it so much work into this relationship and it works pretty well. And on the other hand, business wise, so different, like really so different approaches. Like, how often would you get me really upset if you would say something? or we would like completely disagree on the approach, etc., etc. So I find that also pretty amazing that you can really get along with someone amazingly. That's what I would consider.
Yeah, and it's not like
It
we
is.
cannot collaborate. We've traveled together. We're doing plenty of projects together
Yeah.
that are life related, but the vision and execution style,
Yeah.
work wise, is completely different. I see it
Yeah.
in your level of organization, preparation.
Yeah, I mean, like in that sense, you still with me?
Tweaking a bit, spasming.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's the end of the episode.
Don't say that. I think it's really interesting to see how contrasty that is. But obviously, also, like, I think a whole different programming of work that we have behind us. Like, I have worked in corporates only until a year ago, 2 years ago, and you have never worked in corporates.
I've never
So
had a
it's-
job since I was 18.
Yeah. You had jobs, but not as employed. But I think that also makes a big difference how you, how you get trained as such and how you really approach
Yeah,
it.
well, I think a whole bunch of colleague decency I don't have,
No.
you know?
I think you just have different things, and I think that's really fair to acknowledge. Because I feel like if I need advice or if I want to hear your opinion, then I ask. Other than that, I just don't. I have other people that I can ask, where I feel more understood as such, even, you know, like in the question that I'm asking, and empowered in the answer that I'm getting. And I think that's just fair. Like, you to expect your partner to be 360 is also a bit of an overrated thing. I think you really
Setting yourself up for
Upset.
some type of disappointment.
exactly, yeah. So I think that's fair, but
Very true.
so in that sense, yeah,
Thank you all for being a part
for
of
your
our
loyalty.
part of our
Yeah.
process, figuring out what we can and can't do together.
Yeah, and joining us, commenting, being with us every week. That is really a beautiful experience as well. Reaching out, it's just wonderful, heartwarming messages that we always got, and I think this is really powerful. That you all have been part of our journey, getting to know each other, getting to know the topics, talking openly about all the things we did.
Definitely. You can still find us where you always found us.
If you want to rewatch,
You can always reach out to us if you feel like we should not finish the Love Change podcast. Then we will disappoint you again, personally. But I think there's more to come from us. When, we don't know. I had the idea, because we're moving to Colombia, that we should make a vlog about us moving to Colombia. But I don't know. I think I have to see how busy I am. It really, video stuff takes a lot of work and attention.
the editing mostly, eh?
Yeah, vlogging takes editing, and
Yeah.
how do you say it? I've seen how Mike does it really quickly on his phone, so he doesn't even sit behind his desk.
Oh wow.
But he still spends time on it. But you
Yeah.
create memories. That's one thing that I like about
That's true.
vlogging and podcasting, is we did create.
We're gonna go watch those when we're old.
Yeah, or like
Absolutely.
yeah, one like it's definitely a different format than just taking pictures or whatnot, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thank you so
very
much.
much, Kay.
Thank you.
Thanks for being a wonderful co-host.
Thank you
Always
for being
making
the
tea.
host. Yeah, chipping in some smiles and happiness.
Definitely.
And some good looks, not to forget.
Yeah. You can still win DVD sets of all the episodes if you
He had some fun
pick
stuff with it.
the sexiest outfit that Kay wore in all the episodes. It requires you to make a top 3, and the winner gets the DVD set, handwritten per episode by Kay, which number the CD
It's not gonna
contains.
happen.
If your computer still has a DVD player,
It's not gonna
if
happen.
not, you'll get a USB stick. It's okay. USB stick. Nobody uses CDs anymore.
Okay.
Seriously.
Not gonna sign anything.
Hey everybody.
Thank you so much.
We love y'all. Love Change Out.
Love Change Out.